Hi, anyone, those of you, hi. So, I'm like such a weirdo. I spend too much time alone. um, and so sometimes, like, if I make a, when I make a video, and I didn't realize when I made the last two videos that I made that I was making them on a different channel. I guess I have two channels. I made a whole bunch of videos, well, not a whole bunch, but I made maybe like 15 videos or something on this other channel over the last, like, 2.5 years that I've been in Utah, and so now these are on this other channel. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But I make videos sometimes because when I watch them and I see myself, then I'm like, oh, okay, you don't seem like a crazy person. Like, I, I don't know. When you spend too much time alone, you get weird in your head. Some people don't though. Like, some people are blessed with like an innate confidence and an innate happiness. It's such a blessing. So be really grateful for that. If you have that, it's so awesome. Like, I had that when I was younger. I was fearless, like young, and um, I watch a lot of dog rescue videos lately because I'm just trying to I don't know, watch something else. And I like dogs a lot. I like animals a lot, and I'm like, maybe I feel like I'm like one of those dogs that like, when the people are trying to build trust with them, like, they really want to play. You can tell they're kind of like jumping around, but every time you try to touch them, they run away. But then if you walk away, they follow you because they're just confused. But then I'm a human, and we have all this shit in our heads, you know? Like, a dog can lose a leg and just be totally happy. And we have, some of us more than others, me for sure, like, all this crap going on that, like, and so, like, the main theme of the videos that I make are just as because of about my search for the truth. I wouldn't probably be making videos otherwise because I don't really feel like I have that much to say that would need to be recorded. Like, I don't have beauty tips or um, anything else. I don't know. So, like, so much about my life changed after I saw the truth from God, and got really good, got better, got really better. And then there's these, like, parts of me. Well, like, okay, so what got better was that I've now worked at the same place for longer than I've ever worked anywhere in my life, and I've lived alone. This is the first time I've lived alone for as long as I have, which is like 2.5 years. I've lived in, and I just didn't. I moved a lot. It was chaos, and so I have stability, and like a good car, and things I never thought I would have. Um, which are just material things, but they definitely, like, can enhance your life. Like, stability is can be very great, you know. I did not have it growing up at all in any way, and that can cause a lot of damage. That's all. I mean, like, that's just as anything. Like, go back to the dogs videos. Like, if you treat something wrong badly, it gets a bad idea in its brain and doesn't do things. It doesn't, like, function right. Dogs, we can rehabilitate them most of the time, a lot of the time. And I keep thinking, and it's just because I've been watching so many dog videos that I'm thinking about myself like a dog. But I'm like, okay, don't give up on me. Keep trying, God. And there's a story I've been thinking about. Like, there's a story I read about this man. Like, when things first started happening to me, I was, like, convinced that it was going to be this, like, super quick process. And that's difficult to explain because if I just talk about that, like other stuff, it just sounds nuts. You have to me anyway. I know it does. But I wanted to know the truth, and I had a bunch of stuff happen to me over a period of about a year, and then I had things get really intense, and I thought, stuff like, oh, my computer's going to die. Like, I got answered in a supernatural way, and that is totally fine. If there are people, if you're just like, that's bullshit, that's totally fine. I don't anymore at all think like it's my job to try to convince someone of what's real and what's not real, because it's a personal journey. But when it started happening to me, because I had asked for the truth, I thought that it was going to be like 2 weeks literally, and I was going to know the truth. And I think that that's because of, well, obviously, it's because of our, like, instantaneous culture. I mean, like, I feel like I was in my 20s in the, like, kind of like the last real decade before social media. I was actually the 90s, which at the time seemed so complicated for me because I was, jacked up in the head. But I also had a lot of so many good friends and so many good experiences. But my brain kind of ruined things a lot. But I still did have a lot of really good experiences and stuff. And that was my point of saying that. Social media. I grew up. I don't remember now. Dang it. But anyway, I guess, well, the thing I was talking about before is that, the instantaneous culture. Okay, because then what happened is that, like, when I was in my 20s in the 90s, I remember, like, being so excited for the new Pavement CD to come out and to go down to the store and buy it, and we'd go down and listen at the CD store, and, and then I remember when music became, like, instantly accessible, it was so cool at first, and it's cool. Like, it's cool that we can find anything out, but then at the same time, there's definitely, like, I've been reading this book, Black Elk. My son gave it to me. It's pretty cool. And it's, well, so sad, but I love you. The Native Americans, or at least the Sioux, the Oglala Sioux, did not understand the white people and our impatience. Like, it was like really, they did not get it. We were just like, and so patience, having to wait for something, is definitely a virtue, like they say. And I did ask for patience. I asked for the patience of Job, which I did not know was something that you shouldn't do, but maybe also something you should do. Because, like, hey, be the crazy person who boldly steps before the, God, and says, like, hey, what's the truth? So I thought it was just going to be this quick thing and it would be over. And it was not that. Luckily, it's 6 years later now from that, 6 to 7, depending on when it kind of started. And I've learned that things take time, for sure. I have way more patience now than I did. Because that's what happens if you actually really, really want that. You have to really want it, I think, for me anyway, and then shit will happen. And it did happen to me. And so the point of this is that there is a story, I don't remember his name, but he's an Eastern dude. I think probably Indian, like in like the country of India, and he meditated, and his whole story was that he had an experience which is, oh, my device is low on disk space. Okay, and he had a Kundalini, what is called a Kundalini experience during meditation. And you know what? I know people get really freaked out, especially like Western Christians, about anything like that. And I'm not in that camp. So if you are, then that's okay. That's your thing. I'm in a camp of, like, there are many paths to God. And he described, it's been a long time since I've read him, that's why I can't remember who he is or anything, but he went through like 12 years of hell, kind of, like, of suffering and everything, until things were finally, I don't know, he, probably if I read a story again, I'd know, but he, for me, I'll try to explain it, like, I thought, oh my God, like, things happen, miracle stuff happens, supernatural things happen to me. And when you don't get the answer you want, and you can't manipulate that answer in any way, and there's not anything you can really do to change your situation other than change inside, which can only happen through a process, for me anyway. I think there are stories of people who, like, instantaneously change. That is not what happened to me. It's just been a journey. And I was horrified about that in the beginning when I was told, that it would take years. I was seriously horrified. Like, it's kind of funny. I was like, no, like, that would be the worst thing ever, because nothing takes years. And there's a lot more to that, but so I guess what I'm thinking is, I'm always like, why am I not, like, completely and totally, like, why haven't, like, these very intense things about myself that I wanted to change? I guess that's the point of what I'm talking about, and I'm mostly just talking to myself so that when I watch this, I can see that I make sense, and that my musings or questions or lamentations are honest and okay. So it's kind of more for me, but I do think that definitely you get led to things I did, like the right thing at the right moment. So if anybody else is out there, but so for me, I've just been thinking about that today because there's so many things about myself that I would like to be completely changed, and they're just not yet. I got a lot of vices, but yeah, and it's 2020, and things are, the way that they are, and that's all. I don't know. Maybe I don't have anything else to say other than it's probably just going to take longer. God tells me a lot in a weird way, but he does over and over until you realize there's something to be afraid of. And it's interesting because, and also who's greater than the world. And I'm not super like, actually read the Bible every day. I read the daily Catholic reading online because it's interesting. They have like a Old Testament, usually, not always, and then like a Psalm, and then a part of the New Testament, and it's just interesting. And when I was growing up, like Catholics were like and my family still thinks that. Like my mother thinks like, oh, Catholics, like they pray to saints, and God doesn't want you to do that. But like there are more stories there's a ton of stories, but in Catholic, I guess in the canon of saints and stuff, there are way more stories that you can, if you're a seeker of a certain type, like me, where you find like, oh, okay, so these things happen. Like they actually happen to people because they really, really wanted to know God and stuff. And, anyway, so the point was like, I'm not super Bible-y. Like I'm not like, well, it says this. I'm more like, whoa, it says that. Because like when you can take something that's in that book, like, the hypocrisy of modern day Western Christians for the most part, like, is totally in the book. Then that kind of like proves the story, sort of, or proves aspects of the story, and like the most important things to learn. One other thing God said to me, kind of in a roundabout way, was that it's simpler than it's so simple that most people won't even look at it. And then I think like I'm fidgeting that. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. Like it's actually super basic, but those things can take a lifetime to learn how to do. There's actually one of my favorite kind of little stories of the Desert Fathers, which were like the Coptic Christians and stuff. It was like back in the day, not long after, like maybe the first or second century. There's a story, like a teaching story, where the like master teacher the guy comes to his teacher and says like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do? Basically, probably in a more like poetic way. And the teacher says, go out and learn to love God more than anything, basically, in different words. And he says, okay, so he goes away for like 20 years. And then he comes back and says, okay, I've done that. Now what do I do? And he says, now go love your neighbor as yourself. And so, like, to me, I take that story as, like, for some people, for some of us, it can take a lifetime just to learn the basics. And maybe that's all we're supposed to stick to is the basics. It's hard, though, because this is a very complex world. So, that's my thing for today. And it helps me to not feel so alone. I get lonely. I'm like that rescue dog. Except for unlike the rescue dog, I'm not like just a victim. A lot of the reason why I get lonely is because I things I did myself. Anyway, like all of us, some of us out there in the fringes. So I think that this next week is going to be interesting. I have a virtual friend kind of who is saying that it's going to be an interesting week, and it seems like it. We got an eclipse on Sunday, Donald Trump's rally on Saturday, where his campaign manager is bragging on Twitter that they've sold 800,000 tickets for a venue that seats like 19,000. So in Tulsa. They did change the date because it was on Juneteenth at first, which is so that's cool, but it's going to be a weird weekend. And the solstice. So that's all. I don't know. Do I have anything else I wanted to like kind of talk about or get off my? I guess not. Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening to me if you did and let me talk.